Hey, what's up everyone? Welcome to another extremely the best tutorial in After Effects you've probably ever seen in your life. Just kidding, that's probably completely inaccurate. I want to apologize for not having a tutorial out in quite some time. I've been extremely busy with work, been doing a little bit of traveling, but I'm back. But we've only got like 30 minutes because my laundry is in the washing machine and I need to wash it and fold it before tomorrow. So, we need just to fly through this one. Like I said last episode, we're going to be starting to do some actual motion graphics this episode. I was going to do a more in-depth thing, but like I said, I've just been so busy. So I just decided to do this quick animation to kind of showcase, just very, very, very simple title animations in After Effects. So let's just press 0 on the numpad to preview this, to see what we're going to be creating today. Alright, there we go. This tutorial is awesome. Oh yeah. So that's pretty much it. What we have is 3 text layers in 3D space that fly by the camera. If you look closely, let's zoom in here, let's go frame back. You can actually see there's a little bit of motion blur happening as we pass through the letters. You can see a little bit better there when you see the motion blur here, that it's going past, which is pretty neat. We also have some particles floating around randomly in the atmosphere. Then we have this texture on the background. This is optional. I just did this to kind of spice things up a little bit, and I have the text a different color on each one just to differentiate it a little bit better. And I don't know if you can tell, but we also have a little bit of 3D coming in through the text as well. It's fake, but it's there, and you can barely see it. So then we have the background that has kind of like this radial ramp with it. And we have a camera moving throughout. So, without further ado, let's go ahead and bust this one out. So what I'm going to do is create a new project. No, I do not want to save it. So now we have this empty area here, and if you remember, we can go to Composition, New Composition, and create it. The time doesn't really matter, but this is probably going to be about a 10-second clip, but I'm going to leave it 30 seconds for now, and we'll change that as we create it. So we're going to name our comp Tutorial Title, and press enter. And now you may not have these squares. If you do have them, then it's okay. If you don't, then you can toggle transparency grid on or off, just to show that there's transparency there. So let's go ahead and start creating things. So we'll press Control T, Command T on Mac, or you can go to this icon here and click this layer, new text layer, and we're going to type this tutorial. Let me turn off the transparency grid so that you can see it. I spelled tutorial wrong. That's not how you spell it. Oh Jesus, let me restart this thing. Tutorial. Is that how you? Alright, I'll just restart the word. How embarrassing. Tutorial. I'm so tired. It's ridiculous. I probably spelled it correctly the first time. So we have this tutorial, and then we're going to duplicate it by pressing Control Command D, or you can go to Edit, Duplicate down here, and move that down and double click it and type is, and then we'll duplicate that one and we'll press V and move it down and say awesome, because it is. Now what we want to do is push these back into 3D space, but we have to make these layers 3D first. So what we can do is this little button here, the 3D layer, allows us to turn these on 3D, and I just like organizing a little bit better. So now we have these 3 3D layers right here. And what we'll do is, oh, by the way, the font that I'm using is Impact. That's the name of the font. I'm also using small caps to make it so I don't have to hold down caps lock because I'm that lazy. So what I want to do is, this one is going to be our focus. So that's where we're going to begin everything. So let's just press S and scale it up so it's a little bit bigger. About right there. Actually, we'll bring it down just a touch. We're going to move into it. And then we're going to push this way back in 3D space. So we'll hold down Shift and we'll just drag it back. Maybe about 3,500. Backspace here. 3,500. And awesome, we want it to be even further back. So maybe about 8,500, sorry. So they're pretty far back there. So what we want to do is we want to create a camera so that we can go past these. So what I want to do is go to Layer, New, Camera. 50 millimeters is fine. All these settings are good. Don't worry about them. And what we could do is we could animate the camera and go through here and do this kind of stuff, but we'll end up with a problem where it'll do that. It'll go, because what the camera is doing is it has a point of interest here at the tutorial layer, and so when you passed it, it flips it around so you're still looking at it. So we don't actually want that. So let's press Control Z a few times just until we get rid of the camera. So let's create a new camera, layer, new camera. 50 millimeters is fine. So we want to have something to move the camera. Did I move that back? Yes, 8500. We want to have something to move the camera. So what we can do is we can create a new null object, layer, new, null object, that will act as the motion, the object to pull the camera. And if you'll notice, if I press P on the camera, you can see it has these weird numbers. But if I go to this tutorial layer and press P on it, you see it's 0. And the null object, if I make it 3D, the position parameters are relative to the things we create inside of After Effects. So the camera positions are kind of odd, and they use like math and stuff to figure out. But we'll just go with the null object. So how do we make the camera follow the null object? So if you imagine this, if you've got a camera here, and then you have the null object here. Basically you have a horse here and a carriage here, and the horse is pulling the carriage along. So the null object is going to be the horse and the camera is going to be the carriage. So what we can do is we can grab this parent tool here and we'll pick whip it to the null object. So if you see here, the parent is the null object. We'll just close up these position parameters here. And now if we move the null object, the camera will follow, which is exactly what we want. So let's keyframe the position of the null object all the way to the awesome layer. So we'll keyframe it there and we'll move forward about 10 seconds. Actually, let's move forward a few seconds and go forward until we get to where the is layer is. And that's good, right about there. We want to move this up so it lines up. So we'll just grab the XY parameter here and move it up. And we'll go forward a little bit more in Z space, and the awesome layer is kind of far down there, so we do the same thing for it. Press P, bring the XY layer, the Y layer up, and we want to move in just a touch more so we get a little bit closer to it. So now we have this animation here, which doesn't really look all that great. I mean, it's kind of, it's kind of all right, but it's not very dynamic is what I'm saying. So what we want to do is we want to add a little bit, we want to make these letters not be able to be seen behind each other. So what we can do is as soon as we are going through the first layer, we'll fade in the second layer. So right here, we're going past the tutorial layer, text layer. So what we can do is press T and keyframe the opacity from 0, move forward a few frames, maybe move forward 3 frames to 100. And we'll do the same thing when we pass through the is, which is about right here. We'll press T on the awesome layer, keyframe the opacity, about 3 frames, and bring it up. So now, if we watch through it, we can see that we don't see the layers until we are already coming at them. So that works pretty well, but let's also add a little bit more depth to it. So let's maybe add some rotation. So we press R, we can rotate the whole scene with a Z rotation. So we do just like that. So let's start out at 0. We'll keyframe that, and we'll go to the first keyframe on the position. I just press U to show me all of the different parameters to there, and we'll rotate it 90 degrees. But now we also have to rotate our is layer 90 degrees. So we'll press R on it and rotate the Z position 90 degrees so it faces forward. And we'll do the same thing for our awesome layer. Man, that's awesome. So we'll rotate to 180 degrees, so 90, 90, 180. And now it's upside down. So we'll go to the awesome layer, press R, and rotate it 180 degrees. So now what we have is this animation, which looks a little bit better in my personal professional opinion. But now nothing really lines up the way it did before, so let's just move it over by moving the position parameter of the null object. So let's just move it down just a touch, about right there, kind of in the center, and that should pretty much fix it almost. Let's move that down as well. So that's looking pretty good. I'm satisfied with it. I hope you are. So let's also get rid of that. So let's also create a background layer. So we can go up here and go layer, new, solid. And this is going to be our background, so just name it BG, and put it at the bottom. And we want to do effect, generate, ramp. And we'll make the first layer like a darkish, lightish blue, maybe a little bit darker than that. And the end color, black. So now I want to change the ramp shape to a radial ramp. And we'll take this middle part here, move it to the center, and we'll grab this ending part, move it kind of over here. And let's actually make this a little bit more blue and a little bit more dark. Just kind of make it look a little bit cooler. So now I have this nice background. Adds a little bit more dynamics to it. And let's put a texture on the background to make it look even better. So what I'm going to do is go File, Import File. And I've actually purchased this from Video Copilot, their Riot Gear thing, but you can Google search grungy textures and find your own grungy texture for free. But I just like their products a lot. So now we have this. I just imported this grungy texture and put it above my background layer. So I'm going to scale it up to about where I want it. And I'm going to change the transfer mode to overlay. So that's going to darken everything up a little bit. What I can do is I can apply an effect to the grungy texture, effect, color correction, curves, and just brighten, maybe give it a little bit more contrast. Actually, let's reverse that. You just got to tweak it a little bit. So that looks pretty good. It's a little subtle, but it's there, which I prefer. I like it. So now we have this tutorial is awesome, and it's looking, it's looking pretty good. But let's also add a little bit of motion blur to make things look a little bit more dynamic. So if we select this tutorial is awesome and click on the motion blur icon and turn motion blur on for the composition as well right here, as we go past the letters in space, we get a little bit of motion blur with them. Great. So now let's add a particle system just to spice everything up a little bit. If I press Control Y, we can create some particles. If I can spell. And do effect, simulation, CC particle world. And you're going to get this weird looking grid thing. Let's just drag it over a little bit. And what I want to do is go to grids and guides and just unclick all of these because I don't want them, I don't need them, don't like them, don't want to see them. So let's close that up and go to the producer. And I'm going to do more in-depth stuff with the particle world because I like it a lot. I use particular from Red Giant a lot, and I love particular. But particle world has its own place in my heart as well, and I don't want to neglect it. So let's grab the Z position and just hold down Shift and push that back a little bit, maybe out 9. Push the X and Y up around us a little bit, just so that we get these particles everywhere. And let's turn the motion blur on for these guys as well. Go into the particle layer. Explosive is fine. Velocity is fine. All right, and we'll set gravity down to -0.25 so the particles kind of float a little bit. You can't really tell it here, but that's what they're doing. And we'll go down to the particle settings and change these to faded sphere. And so they're now, I don't know if you see it, but they're little circular circles now. And we'll change the color to bluish color and the depth color to a darker blue as well. And let's make them a little bit larger so that you can see them. So now, maybe that's not, might be a little bit too large. So let's bring them down just a touch. So now what we have are these particles flying around with our text layers flying around as well. And it looks, it looks pretty nice. I can't complain too much. Let's change it just a touch. Let's set the transfer mode to our particles to add, so they kind of interact a little bit differently. And that is looking pretty nice. Now, what I did to create the 3D look of the text is I just went to all the text layers, select them all, duplicated them, put them below the original files, just like this. And let's just solo our text layers by pressing the solo buttons on all of those. And we'll do them one at a time. So this tutorial, we'll select the second one, double click it, change the color, it's like a dark brown, and we'll press P. Oops, no we won't. Control Z, and we'll change the color again because I pressed P and changed the text. Let's select all of this, change the color, it's like a dark grayish color, and we'll click on the tutorial layer again, press P, and then bring it forward or back 30 pixels or so. So now if we press the toggle transparency grid, you can see that it's coming out. So let's actually make it about 60. Let's double that just so it stands out a little bit more. And we can move it over a little bit as well. Maybe not that much. Maybe we'll do a 40 so it's not as in your face. Keep on moving it over. That looks pretty good to me. So now we'll unsolo that and we'll solo the is layers and we'll scroll to where they're at. And we'll do the same thing for the bottom is layer. Highlight it, change it to a darker color. And we'll click on the is layer, press P, and 3500 we'll do 3540. So now maybe about 3560. So that's looking pretty good, and we'll unsolo that and solo the awesome layer. I like saying that, it has a good ring to it, the awesome layer. And we'll highlight it, make it a dark gray color, and we'll click it, press P, and 8560 for that one as well, maybe 8550. Just a little bit of tweaking just to get this correct, make it look nice. So that looks pretty good, and then we'll unsolo that, and the final product looks something along those lines. And to export this, what you're going to want to do is you want to go to the end of the animation in a few seconds, press N to close your work area, so that if you preview it, let's go down to half res so it does it a lot faster. So this will bring your resolution of the composition down to half. So preview this whole thing, it'll go through and we'll be able to see our final animation. Now there is one thing that I want to change, and I'll get to it in just a moment. So our final animation looks something like this. This tutorial is awesome, but there is one thing I want to change, and this tutorial, when we fly through, we kind of run into the T. Is that the T on the tutorial? Yeah, the T on the tutorial. So let's just back up a little bit, and we'll just move over our keyframe a touch. So we just grab the null object and move it over, and that should pretty much do what we want it to do. So now we've got this tutorial flies through in between the T is awesome. So that looks pretty nice, and what we can do is we select the null object, select these last two keyframes here, and press F9 to make them easy ease, which I can't actually do because I'll in my capture. So keyframe assistant, right click keyframe assistant, F9 easy ease, and that'll make it kind of slow in. If we look at the graph here, you can see that we're kind of fading into the animation nice and easy, so hence the name. So that's pretty much it for this tutorial. I hope you've enjoyed it. It's been pretty short and sweet, very simple, but we'll get into more advanced things when I have a little bit more time. I'm in the middle of moving to another area, and I'm also, you know, have a lot going on at work, so I'm a little busy, but hopefully it won't last too much longer. Well, actually, I like that it is, but you know, it is what it is. But thank you for watching, and next tutorial we'll go into more advanced things, some more motion graphics, some more kinematic things, maybe some typography. But I appreciate you watching, and leave a comment. I love all of your comments. It makes me happy to see. You know, keep on watching. Tell your friends if you like me. If you don't, tell your enemies. You know, it doesn't really matter that much to me. But thank you very much, and have a great day.